this time, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the HVAC God live show where we talk about all things HVAC that no one else is talking about. At least that's what we hope to do here, right? We try to provide something that you can't get elsewhere. So thank you for joining us on a Tuesday night. Hello to everyone that has said hello so far in the chat. And if you are joining us, feel free to say hi and let us know where you're joining us from. So, hey to Gary, he says, looks like a nice partnership announcement tonight. Looking forward to hearing all about it. Absolutely. I have some friends that have personally been working on that, and they have kept it very hush hush. I will admit. I've said on our show before that, because sometimes I'm able to, get behind closed doors, maybe no more than any other heating and air contractor or anything like that, but sometimes I'm privy to new products, for example, and I'm not allowed to talk about them yet on the YouTube channel. And this was something I did not know about. This is not something I've been keeping a secret because I had no idea. So pretty cool. We will get into what I'm talking about in just a little bit. Bob says, hello, Joshua Griffin, and everyone else awaiting for your program. Hey to Bob. Good to see you, buddy. One of the longtime viewers of our content. I was on the phone arguing about the high costs of insurance in Texas. Many insurance companies are leaving the state. Wow. Okay. I was not aware of that. So sorry to hear that. Hopefully they get that straightened out. Everything seems to be higher. My wife and I were talking about groceries earlier today and how we were, able to seem like purchase so much more for so much less not that long ago. So I hear you on that. Let's get to our story tonight. So this story, I do want to go ahead and say that Daikin is one of the sponsors on our channel. They've sponsored some of our content, and I want to go ahead. The FTC requires that I say so. They required me to say that I'm biased because I am. You guys have pointed that out before, and instead of trying to pretend that I'm not, I've always said that you should take advice from someone that has a favorite, right? If somebody's just neutral on everything and they never really give you their genuine thoughts on things. I was promoting Daikin well before they were a sponsor on our channel. That's what we sold at my heating and air company. And it was the only product we sold, only brand we sold there at the end. The last couple of years I was in business, that's all I would sell. Before I sold my business this year. So that said, let's get to our story. Hopefully I can share this and get my fat face off of here. Is it going to switch over? Is it going to switch over? Come on now. It did not switch over. Why did it not switch over? Bear with me, guys. So let's stop that. Is it not going to work tonight? Hopefully this works. Okay, it says it's working. Okay, there it goes. Okay, shoo. Sometimes when I have a guest on here, the screen sharing does not work. And as some of you know, man, the StreamYard, the software I use is so frustrating. So Philip P says Lunchables are no longer 99 cents. True dat. I remember when I was a kid, um, I was a little fat kid, and we would go to Burger King, and you could get 99-cent Whoppers at one point, or we would go to McDonald's, and you could get 99-cent Big Macs. Those days are over. Those days are long gone, right? So let's see. How can I get my fat face off of here? Bear with me just a second. I want you guys to be able to see what I'm seeing here. There we go. So yeah, it says the Houston Astros announce a new ballpark naming rights partnership with Daikin Comfort Technologies. The home of the Houston Astros will become Daikin Park. So it's currently, I think, Minute Maid or something like that. And so starting January 1st of next year, it will officially become Daikin Park, Houston, Texas, November 18th. The Houston Astros and Daikin Comfort Technologies North America Incorporated today announced they have reached an agreement on a 15-year exclusive naming rights partnership that brands the home of the Astros as Daikin Park. The agreement, effective January 1st, will run through the 2039 season and includes official naming rights, other partnership benefits, and giving back to the greater Houston community through educational programming and youth sports development in underserved communities. Daikin Industries is a leading global indoor comfort solutions provider with over 98,000 employees around the world and over 22,000 employees across Daikin Group companies in the U.S. The company was founded in Japan on October 25th. No, I was about to say, sorry, I saw 25th. My birthday is April 25th. I'm just so scatterbrained sometimes. Was founded in Japan and recently celebrated its 100th anniversary. So that's really cool. I did want to say, why is this popping up? Okay. I think the one thing I did want to point out, I've already pointed out that I'm biased. Of course I am. But I did want to also point out that I think it's really cool that when you see other brands that a lot of consumers think are American brands, and maybe the corporation is in America, but then they will ship jobs overseas. It's been interesting to see a company that, you know, they are very much bringing roots, if you will. They're creating jobs in America. They've got the largest factory in HVAC in North America. We did a video on that if you haven't seen it. And then this is just another example of them, you know, dropping anchor, if you will, creating jobs, creating more opportunities and so on here in our country. And so maybe you don't necessarily recognize the name or didn't at one time. I think they're becoming more of a household name, but they're really it's just interesting that that's their strategy when you see so many other companies that seem to have other strategies, if you will. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Daikin constructed and operates a 4.2 million square foot campus, the largest HVAC manufacturing facility in North America, located in Waller, Texas, which is just outside of Houston. Daikin provides jobs for approximately 10,000 people in the greater Houston area. In addition to Daikin products, the company also provides Goodman, Amana, and Quiet Flex brand products, three of the most well-known and respected brands in the HVAC in North America. Let's see. How long is this article? This is a really long article, guys. So I'm not going to make you sit all the way through this. If you want to see this article, I'm going to drop it here in the chat so you guys can check out that article if you want to watch the rest of it. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty cool. They as I said, they're just doing things a little different. Let's see. Something's wrong here. Share this tab, not that tab. Sorry. And need to go back to this screen. There we go. Okay. So back to our chat. Bob says, hope they do better than the Houston Oilers left the state of Texas. Well, the Astros is obviously a team that's been there. I think they were just in the World Series. I don't watch baseball, so forgive me on that. But I don't think it was this year. Maybe it was last year. Maybe. But I know that they. Maybe it was this year. I don't think it was though. I think I do remember this year it was the Dodgers and I think the Yankees. What little bit of baseball I keep up with, I do remember that. So I think it was last year, or maybe the year before. The Astros were there, so they're a pretty well-known team. Um, and obviously this is kind of a big deal. When you see again, you see other brands and companies investing elsewhere. So that thought that was pretty interesting. Let's see, Flood of Sins. I'm just going to call you Flood. Okay. Welcome to the show. Says I've never heard of the company. It's called an invasion. Maybe so. Maybe so. An invasion in a good way, right? They're creating jobs, selling products here in our country when other companies do the opposite. Um, so I thought that was a good story to start the show off with. Again, if you're joining us, you want to say hello, feel free to do that. Let us know where you're located. That's always fun to know. Let me move on to our poll that we did. Now, we actually did this poll a couple weeks ago, but because we had a guest last week, we did not cover this poll. And let me see if I can make this where you guys can see it. So this poll says, how would you rate the cost of recent HVAC repairs? So again, this is a poll that we posted on our community tab on our YouTube channel, and it looks pretty, you know, uh, I'd say if you add the 50 and the 27, so what is that? 77% of you said that it's either expensive or very expensive. So that I thought that was interesting how the majority of folks felt like, things are expensive. Now, I would just to add some context there, I would be curious that most of the folks that said that if they felt like the that's because of inflation or because of the contractor or because of just things costing more than they thought or what just to give it a little context. In fact, we might do a poll on that exact topic because I would be curious to hear what someone's thoughts are on that. If they felt like that, everything's just ridiculously high now, or if the company that they did business with was just, a little too outrageous on their pricing. What are your thoughts? I mean, have you had a repair on your HVAC system and you thought it was expensive and why? I feel like the contractor does get the blame a lot, whether that's warranted or not. And I do think that it's not uncommon for for folks to be concerned about that, right? To be concerned about the price of their contractor and sometimes even shop elsewhere because of it. So Bob says it's very expensive. So he's not just expensive, but very, very expensive. I hear you. It's something that I do think that honestly played a role in me deciding to sell my company because there was just this constant pinch of employees wanting to be paid, lots and lots of money. And then you got, customers that want a good, they want to be treated fairly. And it was just this constant pinch and pinch and pinch. And I was always, I was never ruthless enough, I think, on that front. I think I always wanted to take care of the customers. I always wanted to take care of the employees, and sometimes maybe even at the expense of me and my own family to make that happen, right? Good or bad. We had a really good run. We were in business 11 years and we grew every single year we were in business. But that is a constant pinch that especially small businesses feel, especially when the owner's on the front line and they're dealing directly with the customer. Something that I have some friends that we talk about periodically. I think there are people that are ruthless and it just doesn't phase them, but some of us, it phases us a lot. I have a few guys that I meet with weekly on our website, newhvacguide.com, and they sign up for our mastermind groups. And I remember one guy, he was almost brought to tears over the subject, you know, because he just felt that pinch constantly. Ryan says, I felt it was expensive. Plus, the contractors always say you are paying for their knowledge and service, but the knowledge is lacking based on conversations with people working on my equipment. That's a good point. You can't say that you're paying for the knowledge and the years of experience if you don't bring that to the table, right? I think it's a really good point. Very good point. Plus, the service wasn't that great either for some companies. Glad I found someone knowledgeable. Awesome. So it sounds like you had to go through a few to find, and that's not uncommon either, right? There's some bad ones out there. You might have to go through a few bad ones before you find a good one. But yeah, let's see. Let's move on to another topic tonight. I wanted to touch on a couple stories tonight because I think some of this stuff is interesting, but it plays a big role in our industry. In fact, I've got a video coming, should launch beginning of next week, I think, where we talk about some of the big things that are coming, some of the things that I think are really important for homeowners and pros alike to know. And so look out for that video. It talks a little bit about some of the recent changes in our powers that be, if you will, and some things that are going to change in our industry because of that. So, as Bill says, please smash that like button. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. And yeah, anybody watching this, if you are getting any value out of our content, if you are wanting more behind the scenes and secrets and so on in our industry, make sure you hit that subscribe and of course the like button. Scott says, hey Josh, great to see you. Thanks, Scott. You too, buddy. You too. So yeah, let me move on to this other story. I thought that this was pretty interesting. So let's see, share here. You guys should be able to see that. And so this says fire. This is 4 days ago. So this is a very new story. Fire sends smoke through the Union Station Friday morning, building to remain open. And so this story is coming out of Utah, I believe. Are you gonna? Okay, I thought it was gonna lock me out. Some news organizations will do that, websites and so on. But it says fire in an HVAC system Friday morning sent black smoke through parts of Union Station. The station will be open today. And where is maybe I'm wrong on where this location was, because I thought this was, bear with me. Let's see. This says California, that this is a California web web page or whatever company about us. But isn't Union Station, where isn't that in New York? No, DC. Okay, so that's in DC. I don't know. Hard to keep up with all that. So maybe this company's out of California, but the story itself, or maybe this news organization is in DC. So anyway, sorry about that. Fire in an HVAC system Friday morning sent black smoke through the parts of Union Station. The station will be open today. The caller told fire dispatchers black smoke was coming from the lower level of the building, out of the building's HVAC system, according to a statement from the KCMO fire department. Well, KCMO is that Kansas City? I'm all over the place here. I'm all kinds of confused here. Where's this news organization? KSHB Action News is in Kansas City. So is there a Union Station in Kansas City? Yes, there is. Okay, so that's where we're at here. Sorry, guys. Normally these these stories will put right there, where this is all happening. But I guess they assume that you know where Union Station is. um Firefighters found the fire in an HVAC unit on the roof of Science City and quickly knocked down the flames. Other fire crews used fans to move the smoke out of the building. Maintenance workers are working to shut down the air handling system to prevent more smoke from spreading. KCFD is still working to remove smoke from Union Station, according to a statement from the fire department. Quote, due to the size of the structure, this is an enormous undertaking. Building maintenance has removed a window on an upper floor, and we are using high powered fans to create positive pressure and remove the smoke. We expect another hour or 2 hours before it is complete. Air quality checks came back negative. This is the first day of the Holiday Reflections exhibit at Union Station. As always, when I read these stories, the thing that always frustrates me is, why is it smoking? HVAC systems don't just up and catch fire unless something is wrong. So that's always like one of my pet peeves about these news stories is when they gloss over that. I want to know why. Why was it on fire? Why isn't this? I mean, this is concerning for me anyway. Should be concerning for everyone involved. So, let's see. Back to our chat here. HVAC lead says, "Remember when Goodman used to Janitrol and was good equipment? Used to Janitrol. Goodman bought Janitrol, yes, back in the what was it, the 80s, the 70s, something like that. Penn is New York. Got it. Penn Station. That I've heard that a million times. So I don't know why I thought that, but yeah. Bob says that was when a company based in Ohio named Janitrol. They made excellent equipment back then. I had worked on them long ago. Long ago. Philip says, are ducted systems limited in terms of efficiency? What's the highest SEER2 ducted system? We actually have a topic, or we actually have a video coming out on this exact topic, Philip, very soon, where we went to the streets. If y'all haven't seen our latest video where we literally went to the streets and did interviews, we had some fun with that. We asked people, what is a heat pump? And just, kind of got some answers. And then, we went through and actually said what it is and why you should care, why you need to know. But we also have a video coming up talking about SEER. Now, what's the highest SEER? I don't know. Probably a some sort of geothermal system out there. I think some of those can get up into the 40s. If you're talking about a system that has an outdoor unit and it's not geothermal, like an air-to-air technology, like a heat pump, usually 20 to 25 is what you're seeing out there. And let's see, are ducted systems limited in terms of efficiency? Well, I think all systems are limited in terms of efficiency. What's interesting is, and we've talked about this on our channel before, but SEER is actually not the best representation of comparing systems, in my opinion. I think there are other things, there are other factors, other ratings that you may want to consider as well, if not in contrast. Some of those ratings being COP, some of those being not just ratings, the technology itself. So you can take an inverter system and it's going to be significantly more efficient, regardless of SEER. It's going to be significantly more efficient than a staged system, whether we're talking 1, 2, 3, however many stages. An inverter system is generally going to be significantly more efficient. Now, I'm sure there's people out there that want to maybe find an exception to every rule, but just in general. So if we're talking about, say, a 17 SEER Daikin Fit that's an inverter, it's going to be more efficient than a 2-stage other branded system that maybe you get 18 or 19 SEER out of. It's just going to be, because the technology is better. So a communicating inverter system is going to always be more efficient than a stage system, regardless of SEER. Okay. So uh are they limited? Yes. Uh could they be limitless? Maybe, but unless you have an infinite amount of money, most of those companies they got to figure out the threshold. What's uh the most efficient system they can make that can still be sold in our market? And so I think that a lot of them play that game more than we know. That's why you see companies, they'll come out with, oh, we've got a system that's 25 or 26 SEER. And then you see other companies that are like, we're not even going to try to do that because, you're having breakdowns, or you're having, uh, issues with reliability, or at the end of the day, it's significantly higher in price. That's a problem, right? So is it limitless? No, no, probably not limitless. There's still a finite, there ain't going to be but so much SEER they could get out of a system without having to have, I mean, it just seems like the systems keep getting larger, the technology and so on. To get a higher SEER rating, they'll sometimes go with a larger coil. And I remember walking up to a 5-ton system a couple years ago that was as tall as me almost. I mean, I had to put my hands on the edge of it and kind of look over to look, kind of do that to look down into the system because it was so tall. And so, they just keep getting bigger and bigger. Let's see, lasted 20 years. Get a 20 plus inverter AC. It will save your customers at least 60% on their electric bill. Bob says, my Daikin condenser is matched to a Goodman air handler, 15 SEER. I hope it lasts a long time. Yeah, a lot of times when people talk about the length of, or the life of systems, they'll say, oh, they don't make things like they used to. And what a lot of those people never talk about is the compressors. If you go with a inverter system with a rotary style compressor, the Daikin swing compressor, one of those types of compressors, they never talk about those. Now, I'm not saying they never go bad, especially with some of the bozos in our industry and how they install this equipment, but um the failure rate, I mean, I actually, when I teach my classes and the topic comes up, I'll ask the class, how many rotary compressors have you replaced? And I have not had one single customer, or I'm sorry, one single student in any of my classes that said that they've replaced more than what they can count on one hand. Not one. Not one yet. Now, maybe you're out there, and if you are, what are you doing to murder all these compressors? But I haven't had it. But in contrast, I'll say to the same class, I'll say, how many scroll compressors have you replaced over the years? And you'll see hands go. I mean, they'll say hundreds, if not thousands, of compressors. So it's, I think that's something that's interesting. Hey, Fisher, good to see you. Welcome to the show. HVAC Leads also says you need to push nitrogen when brazing inverters. You need to flow an inert gas when you're brazing, period, because of the oxidation, right? But good point. Good point. Ryan says, I wish the manufacturers had sensors that let the homeowner know their system was installed improperly to keep people honest. I think that they're working on different technologies. I don't know if you're ever going to be able to have a technology that will just immediately tell the homeowner, hey, this guy didn't flow nitrogen. Hey, this guy didn't pull a good enough evacuation on the system, triple evacuate the system before he started it up. But we are seeing strides in our industry. In fact, some are saying that if you fast forward to maybe 5 or 10 years from now, we are not going to see much brazing at all. That we're already seeing companies flirt with other technologies. If you go buy a mini split today, chances are many of them are going to have other technologies such as flaring and other types, things like that. but we've just seen the industry change so much on that front, and things are not new anymore, right? So when press fittings, for example, when they came out and they were new, a lot of folks, including myself, did not want to be first in line. They, when you've got customers that are spending lots of money on a heating and air system, you don't want to be putting something in that you're not sure, that you're not a believer in yet, right? But some of these press technologies have been around a minute now. They've been around a while, and so with that, that's something that a lot of guys, I've heard that said more than once, especially with these A2L refrigerants, that we could see more manufacturers look at press fittings. For example, you buy a heating and air system, and instead of having the swaged end on the service port where that little stub of copper is sitting there, instead it'll just be a straight piece of copper that you can swage yourself or you can press right to. And that's what a lot of them are talking about switching to. Um, I haven't seen that yet, but it would not surprise me, especially if we fast forward 5 or 10 years from now. It does the it does away with so many things. It does away with the uh problems that we have with brazing, and the fact that a lot of guys don't flow nitrogen, or they introduce other contaminants to the system. There are some guys that are soft soldering and contaminating the system with flux, and there's just all these different ways of doing it, where just simply pressing it, if it works, if you press it and you do it right and you clean up the copper and you do everything that you're supposed to do, if it works, it's so much cleaner, it's so much better. You're not contaminating the system. So I think that's something to point out there. Ryan says, I think that technology could easily be used now. They just don't want to call out their partner contractors. You said it, brother. Commissioning reports should at least be mandatory now. I think that we have seen more and more things go in that direction. We've got companies like Measure Quick and a few others, but Measure Quick's always the one that comes to mind, that offer ways to hopefully remove the human error, right? We see some OEMs coming out with technologies to uh point out if something is a problem, right? I always focus on Daikin because they were what we sold, but I know there's some others out there too. But Daikin's just got a number of technologies to help combat that. They've got their D checker tool that can be connected to the system, and you can see if there's a problem on that front. They've also got, we did a video on their, shoot, I'm drawing a blank on what they call it. Ugh, what is it? I did a video. It's basically where quality install is what they call it. That's what they call it. And it's basically where they go through and help you set up everything. But again, there's still going to be times that guys do things sloppy, or they do things, they cut a corner or two, and that's not the manufacturer's fault. Um, it's no one's fault other than the person doing it. It's not the homeowner's fault. It's not the manufacturer's fault. And in some cases, it may not even be the contractor's fault. Maybe they hired someone that they thought was up to snuff, only to find out that it's not, right? That they're not. Fisher says, is Stay Bright 8 good? Don't require nitrogen. Yeah, Fisher, I did a video comparing soft solder to brazing, and there are some guys that love soft solder. That they will fight you over it. They might even be in our chat here, or they might see this video later, and they will fight you over it. They love. Are you kidding, John? Are you messing with me? JC's told me I had a booger hanging out of my nose, which is might be possible. So thanks, man. I appreciate it. Uh is it still there? That's the question. Did I get it? But yeah, so I did a video comparing soft solder to brazing, and at the end of the day, we could argue different things, but like you said, it doesn't require nitrogen, and there's certainly pros and cons to both. But the biggest thing to point out is a lot of manufacturers do not want you soft soldering. They do not want the chance of the system being contaminated by flux, uh, and other contaminants that could potentially cause acid in the system and things like that. So, um, just I think that's the biggest thing there. Is it good? Maybe it's good for certain things, but most manufacturers they just don't want it. So JC says mobile home systems used to have pre-charged line sets with mechanical fittings. There were not just mobile home systems. I had a house a couple years ago that had those on there, and it was just a standard system. I don't remember the brand, but they had all this extra line set coiled up behind the outdoor unit, which you know, I'm not a fan of for a number of reasons. Not just it looking sloppy, but then you start having traps in the line sets. And he says it was a Coleman. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't doubt it, but I don't remember. So anyway, so yeah, we've covered a couple stories tonight. I do want to let's see. We do have some. Let's see. I wanted to highlight a couple videos that we've got coming up. We do have the video coming up on um, new changes coming to the industry based on recent events, based on changes at the highest levels. If you get my drift, recent changes that go into effect in January. I think it's January, right? Or February. Um, and So I've got a video coming out on that I think is good. It's pertinent. We've also got um, a couple videos that are different than anything that I normally do coming up. I've got a video that we're going to get out there and do a proper tune-up on a heating and air system and show homeowners and pros how to do a proper tune-up, because it's not just we're not going to show you so you can just go out and do it, but more than anything, so mom can see if that contractor is not doing things properly and they can pick that out. In fact, JC's here in our chat. He was our guest last week. He was just texting me, I think, what was it, yesterday, about a guy had, I guess, done a tune-up and he wasn't cleaning the coil properly. He wasn't getting into every nook and cranny, and that's a problem. So is R22 coming back? I don't think so, pal. Not in our country anyway. No time soon. No time soon. John says A2Ls are here to stay. Maybe A3s are coming. Some in our industry like to speculate whether it's an A3, whether we move to air to water technology in our country like they have over in Europe, whether we a lot of guys like to talk about CO2, but the pressures, I mean, I've seen some of the industrial systems out there, and you're talking about not just hundreds of pounds of PSI, but in some cases thousands. I mean, the pressures are unbelievable with some of those systems. So it'll be interesting to see what comes, especially when I'm an old, crusty old man in the future. What we're talking about then, split your double row coils. Yes, yeah, get in all those nooks and crannies there. So we've got a video coming up on that. What's the other video that I wanted to highlight? We've got a video coming up. We've got a couple more of those street videos where we went to the streets and interviewed folks on different things. Especially the biggest takeaway with a lot of that is homeowners are spending tons and tons of money on this stuff only to and then you ask them what they're buying and they just don't know. And to me, that's a problem. Um, I've got another video coming up called Top HVAC Myths Debunked, or at least it's going to be titled something similar to that. So that should be a fun video. We're going to debunk some of the myths that are out there. Uh, that'll be interesting. And then finally, we've got a video talking about some of the ins and outs of air filters. It's a lot of folks, I would say most homeowners do replace their air filter if they do, right? If they do. But if and when they do replace their air filters, most folks know how to replace an air filter and a return grill, but we're going to go further than that. We're going to go down the this rabbit hole of air filters located elsewhere in the ductwork and or HVAC system. We're going to go down. We're going to talk about a whole house home filter, some of the other filtering options that are out there, and we're going to be more hands-on in that video. It's instead of me just sitting here talking about air filters. And then finally a mini split. So that'll be an interesting and fun video, a little different than our average video as well. If you can't tell, if you've been watching our content and watching our recent videos, we're mixing things up. We're trying to provide, as I said at the beginning of the show, something that you can't get elsewhere. There's other heating and air folks making shows like this, for example. And I've tried to do something a little different, maybe that Dave Ramsey style type show where you can ask questions live. And, that's, I don't know of anyone else that's doing it quite like we do it here. So, stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, if you're not following, make sure you do. If you're listening to this on a podcast, make sure you click that follow button and maybe leave us a little word of encouragement, a review, if you will, because supposedly that holds a lot of weight with the podcast. So if you're getting any value out of our stuff, more is to come. More is to come. In fact, I just got word last week or the week before of another cool thing that we're going to be doing, similar to that Daikin DC video. If you haven't seen the DC video that I did, that is one of the best videos I've ever made, period. You got to go watch that video. It's got everything. It's got stuff that matters in there. It's got some laughs. It's got some some good stuff in there, some good content and so on. So definitely check that out. JC says we are waiting on someone to develop new technology. GE has something in the works, but it is super secret. Yeah, they all do. They all do. I think I think if you're fast forward 5 to 10 years from now, we already know that air to water technology is something that a lot of companies are looking at. We know that we're seeing more and more companies offer non-communicating inverter systems, so you could still do like an Ecobee or Honeywell thermostat and pair it with one of these systems that's an inverter. So we might see that more in our industry. We probably, depending on who's elected in the next go around, we may see another hike, another rise on minimum SEER ratings on systems that can be sold. I think that's another thing. Stay tuned. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't start seeing more heat pump systems that are solar technology, and more folks as we continue through this journey of what we call life. More and more solar technology, gets utilized. That's something to keep an eye on. Emery says, I was wondering what your take is on the renaming of Minute Maid Park. I missed it. Go back and watch it. I don't really have that big of a take other than, as I said, I think it's cool to see one of the top I think it's not one of the top, it's the top HVAC manufacturer in the world is investing in American jobs and American infrastructure and providing things locally. When you see other companies in our industry that are known to be American companies, American corporations, doing the exact opposite in some cases. So, that's kind of my main take on all of that. JC says homeowners Should consult an HVAC system to select the correct filter for the system based on static pressure with a clean filter, or do a bypass filter. I'm actually thinking about adding one of those to my house at some point. Um, I'm I'm really I'm after humidity these days though. I'm trying to come up. I've got a dehumidifier, but I want to come up with something more energy efficient than what I currently have set up. We'll see. JC says that video was great and very informative. Thanks. Thanks. Fisher says I heard heat pump not so good, hot enough when 20 degrees Fahrenheit below. Well, that's a lot to unpack. There are heat pump systems out there that are providing excuse me, still 100% capacity heating well below 20 degrees. In fact, with these new A2L refrigerants, I would not be surprised if we don't start seeing, and it's not that I won't be surprised. I'm already being told of some of the equipment that's going to be coming out next year, where some of the brands are going to be offering systems that provide heating well below 0 degrees. Like we're talking negative 20, negative 30 degree temperatures with these A2L refrigerants and some of these systems that are coming out. That'll be interesting to see. That'll be fun to watch too. Brian says, happy Thanksgiving all. Great content as always, Josh. Brian from Central California in the HVAC field for 4 years now. Thanks for saying hello, Brian. And as Brian says, happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. This is a short week for a lot of us, right? I think I'm still working Friday on a few things, but yeah, fun time of the year. My daughter is 3, so we're in it. We're in the Halloween, we're in the Christmas. Everything is just so much more fun than it used to be, and really good time. So hopefully you guys are experiencing a nice holiday as well. I told my wife years ago, I used to work at a company that it was not near home for me. My parents lived 3-4 hours away, and there were holidays that I was on call. And I remember one that I went and bought a frozen dinner for Thanksgiving, and I called mom, and that was my Thanksgiving that year. Of course, I watched football, I'm sure, but this is a nice change of pace with my daughter being 3 and just experiencing all the fun things that we're experiencing. So anyway, it's supposed to be a heating and air show. JC says, I'm willing to bet all 8 AC units will be heat pumps. I'm surprised that hasn't happened. I mean, we're talking in some cases a part that probably costs the manufacturer what, less than $50, and I know I'm oversimplifying it, but what's the real difference between an straight AC unit and a heat pump? Well, and we're talking about a reversing valve, right? We might have to have a metering device there, right? So there's that. So now maybe add a little bit more to it. And then the last thing is you're going to have some controls, a control board that can control proper defrost. But other than that, I mean, I'm surprised we're not already there. I think it's a great point. For folks that don't want a heat pump, they can still run a heat pump like a straight AC. Other than that, I'm surprised we're not there already. It costs too much to manufacture both. So when everyone switches to just inverters, they will all be heat pumps. We'll see. We will see. A lot of the brands, especially the brands making communicating inverter systems, still make a straight AC. I know the Fit, you can get it as a straight AC, and we have customers that install them at the company I work at. I work for a distributor now, and I do all their training. And folks will buy a straight AC and pair it with a furnace. Fisher says heat pump won't last longer than AC with gas furnace. Well, I don't think that that's the point here. But I hear you. In fact, it may not last as long. It may last less than what a straight AC would, because if it's running more often than what that straight AC would, if it's running in the winter as well on mild days, and you've got a dual fuel system, then it's might be getting a little more mileage on it. But again, as we've said before, if we've got one of these systems that is an inverter, a straight AC, a heat pump inverter system communicating, and it's got a rotary compressor, it's going to last longer anyway. So Brian says JC California wants to move all heat pumps by possibility 2030, I think. No more natural gas or propane. Newsom is something else. 2030. Yep. So yeah, no comment on that. I know you guys out in California, y'all have things that you're up against that the rest of us don't have to worry about. And I don't care what your politics are. At the end of the day, uh, you know, some of these changes are being made without consulting any true people in the industry. In fact, I have a friend that has been behind closed doors with some of those, and he told me, he's like, I've been in some of those meetings, and there's politicians in the room, and there's lawyers in the room, and usually there's only one engineer and zero HVAC technicians or consumers making these decisions. Sometimes some of these conversations at very high levels being had. So I think that's interesting to note. John or JC says Bosch is the first to do that. They only make 3 sizes too. You can derate it to the size you need. My biggest concern with some of these brands making those systems is the humidity aspect. They really need to we've got to figure out a way to in some cases slow that air or get that air down. That's the big battle with some of these systems. But yeah, Bob says in many parts of the world they only need AC, no heat at all. Very true. And vice versa, right? Some folks only need heat and no AC. Natural gas is here to stay. Dual fuel, the gas lobby is too big. We'll see. We will see, my friend. Especially recent events, right? That plays a role in all this. Definitely keep an eye out for my video coming out on that exact topic. We go through some of the ins and outs and changes coming because of that. So I've said that enough. I've got one more news story I'm going to share with you guys before we wrap up. I think it's an interesting one. And it's basically about an HVAC business that had close to $1 million stolen from it. So I think that's really cool. Really cool story to end with. Now, I don't think it's cool that they lost that much money, but we will be wrapping up with that story in a little bit. But before we do, if you are here live, do me a favor. We know there's some bad apples in our industry that make us all look bad. If you know a good heating and air company, a good electrician or plumbing company, drop their name in the chat, where they're located, show them some love. And you never know, you might show them a little more than love and have some business sent their way if someone in your area happens to see your comment. So I'm going to do that for the first time on our show. I don't know if it's the first time. I used to highlight my company all the time, but I did a class for a company called Hendrix Heating and Air a couple weeks ago in Newport News, Virginia. So shout out to those guys. And they gave me a shirt. So here I am. It's actually a really comfy shirt too. See, Horace is here with us. He's a good buddy of mine. And he works with me with those guys sometimes. And Horace, you got to get one of these shirts, man. It's like super comfy. Nice comfy shirt here. So again, if you know any good companies, Bob says Morrow Mechanical out of Houston, Texas. Shout out to those guys. You must be doing something right. In fact, I think Bob's mentioned your name before. So shout out to those guys. Any of the rest of you, if you know a good heating and air company and want to drop their name, feel free to do that. And we will highlight those in just a moment. In the meantime, let's get to this story. It looks like it's actually, I've got it on a video. So share here. Is it going to work? Okay, there we go. And then let me get my fat face off of here. There we go. And so it says, Spring HVAC business rocked by betrayal as employee allegedly steals close to $1 million. Let's get to it. Oh, is it? Do I have sound? Hold on, guys. I don't have sound. Bear with me. Oh, come on. Are you not going to work now? We might have to save that story for next week, guys, because my screen share is not working now. Oh my gosh. StreamYard's got to fix this stuff, man. I'm going to send them a nice message again. In the meantime, let's see. Fisher says my FD is a HVAC tech, own a company in Phoenix, Arizona, maybe too hot heat pump. Brian says Valley-wide home improvements in Fresno, California. Shout out to those folks. They installed my new system. Bob says, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and family and friends. Still a good show. I am sorry I was late. No worries. No worries. So yeah, on that note, let me look before I say anything about next, because I do know I've got a few Tuesdays coming up, and next Tuesday is not one of them. So next Tuesday I will be back. I'll be back live, answering questions live. As always, at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Feel free to shoot me some questions, comments, pictures of anything this week, and we'll do our best to highlight that on our next show. In the meantime, have a happy Thanksgiving. Make it a great week, and we'll see you then.